help me understand, why does my crown offend you so much?
Celebrating your crown. All textures, all styles.
However you look, that's how you look. And you're beautiful just the way that you are.
From coily to curly, locks and even braids, bolder and bigger.
My hair is an expression. It is the way I decide to express myself.
A growing movement here and across the country, sparking conversations about what is professional.
Proving that we were worthy, proving that we were just like everyone else meant assimilation.
And proving that representation matters.
Mr. Shara, I like your dress and I have the same one too.
People are always watching. You never know who you inspire just by being your true self.
It's time to shed those stereotypes and hair discrimination. It's about being comfortable in your own skin.
I think God created us all equal and He made our hair different for a reason.
Embracing our history and being the voices for change. This is Rooted. Hey, thank you so much for joining me on this special half hour of Rooted, our series. I'm Tashara Parker. And by now, you have seen some of our Rooted stories here at 4 p.m. as well as on Daybreak. Now, for those of you who don't know, let me tell you a little bit about the background on how this series began.
Taking a live look at the high five.
Now, I wear my hair in different styles all the time. One morning, I came to work in buns, and it caused quite a stir, quite the reaction. I got so many positive, supportive responses. But let's be real. Some thought that the way I chose to wear my hair was unprofessional. The fact is, we are living in a time when our hairstyles are still deemed not professional. Much of this is rooted in racism. Yes, you heard that right. From locks to twists to curls, kinks and waves. The goal is to show this type of hair, the texture, no matter how it's styled, is professional. Over the past few months, we have introduced you to some incredible women who have grappled with their identities and shared their struggles about their hair and acceptance. Well, we're gonna revisit some of their stories in this half hour. And of course, it's not just women. I'll share how Black men are also fighting for acceptance as well. What we are creating here is a community where we can support each other, share experiences, and learn about the rich history of Black hair. We ask you to show us your hair, and let me tell you, hundreds of pictures and stories flooded social media. In fact, WFAA Rooted was the #1 trend in Texas the morning of our launch. That's proof that this conversation is needed now more than ever. Together, we can help educate, end hair discrimination, and change the way future generations are seen. Look, however you choose to wear your hair, it is beautiful, and no one should be discriminated against because of their hair. So we invite you to join this conversation, as many of you have already done, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Clubhouse, wherever you're at. Hey, make sure you use that hashtag WFAA Rooted. Right now across the country, there is a movement to ban discrimination of Black hair and natural hairstyles. It's a sad reality, I know, that we even need legislation to protect people of color. But just look at the results of this recent study. Black women's hair is more than 3 times more likely to be perceived as unprofessional. Black women are 30% more likely to be made aware of a formal workplace appearance policy. The key findings: Black women are more policed in the workplace, feel their hair is targeted, and are consistently rated as less ready for job performance. You see, this legislation is much needed and long overdue. Variations of the Crown Act have been introduced in dozens of states. The Crown Act stands for Creating a Respectable and Open World for Natural Hair. A version has been introduced in both the Texas House and Senate. Ashley Godot of our Austin station reminds us why this fight is needed.
Hair discrimination was put on full display in 2018. A referee told a high school wrestler in New Jersey he had to cut off his locks before a match or forfeit. Lawmakers across the country spoke out, and in 2019, California became the first state to pass the Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair, or Crown Act. To put it plainly, the law states a person can't be denied employment and educational opportunities because of the texture of their hair or for wearing it in protective styles, including braids, locks, and twists. As one state was passing policies to protect black hair, Texas was getting national attention for penalizing it.
I was called down to the office every day. It's a crazy feeling because it's like, what is going on? Why are they doing this to me? Like, it's confusing, it's depressing, and it's stressful.
Last year, DeAndre Arnold was suspended from Barbers Hill High School outside of Houston and banned from walking the stage at his high school graduation because he wouldn't cut the locks he had been growing since he was 12 years old.
You would think it's just hair, but no, it's not like that. It's actually a part of who I am. Growing up around my dad's side of the family, they're from Trinidad and Tobago. This is something you see all the time. You see dreadlocks, and it's like, me seeing that as a kid, it's like, I really want to be a part of this. I want to emulate this and express this culture. I like this.
1 year later, the district's policy requiring the length of a male student's hair to be above the collar hasn't changed.
It really is a shame that in 2020, that was last year, or 2021, we still are dealing with this.
State Representative Ron Reynolds met with DeAndre.
And I applauded him for taking a stand, for being willing to stand on principle, and he wasn't willing to conform to what the school deemed acceptable in terms of hair.
In February 2020, Reynolds and the members of the Texas Legislative Black Caucus vowed to fight hair discrimination the next time the legislature met. That time is now. Representatives Reynolds, Retta Bowers, and Sean Theory all filed versions of the Crown Act, a show of solidarity to show how important this legislation is.
To impose a European standard of hairstyle on people of African descent is not equity. And so it's time that in the state of Texas that we get on board and we make a statement that we believe in African Americans' right to just be and wear their God-given natural hair texture.
Representative Reynolds and Senator Boris Miles filed a bill in both chambers to ban discrimination against people who wear their hair in braids, locks, or twists in Texas schools and businesses.
You should be judged on your merits and not how you wear your hair.
Bowers' version of the bill goes one step further, ensuring people with natural hairstyles can't be discriminated against in housing.
In our style, and whether that's hair or wardrobe, that is an expression of yourself. And you should feel in school, in the workplace, and in where you live, you should feel comfortable to be yourself.
Theory's version bans discrimination in businesses and schools and requires cultural awareness training for teachers.
Without cultural competency, they really don't have an appreciation or awareness for what our hair means to us as African Americans.
3 bills, 1 goal.
Our goal is united, to make sure that in Texas that we ban discrimination based upon hair.
And this legislation is personal. Bowers' nephew wanted to wear his hair in twists. Reynolds' daughter was told not to wear braids at an internship. And Theory's daughter came home from elementary school crying after hearing a teacher berate a black classmate with a racist comment about her hair.
There are a lot more stories than we've ever really heard of. I think it was something that was swept under the rug, kind of at everyone's kitchen table, those conversations. But this is legislation that is necessary.
The movement is growing. Just this month, Connecticut became the latest state to adopt a version of the Crown Act. The governor there tweeting the measure is critical to helping build a more equitable society. Here in Texas, there are 4 versions of the Crown Act filed in the legislature this session, 3 in the House and 1 in the Senate. All of those bills are sitting in their respective chambers' state affairs committees awaiting public hearings. Tashara?
As you can see, this isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of problem, as you can find victims all across the spectrum, from women in the workplace to teenage boys in high school. Ashley and I delved into the politics of all of this stuff in our WFA podcast, Y'all-itics. You can catch more of our discussion by downloading the Y'all-itics podcast. It's free wherever you get your podcasts. And sometimes it doesn't matter how you choose to wear your hair. As a black woman in America, you will get criticism at every level. Our hope is that by telling personal stories, it will open your eyes to the struggle so many black women have faced. We'll hear their stories coming up. One of the things that I love the most about Rooted is hearing your personal stories, your experiences, and your advice. Check out this tweet from Angela Michelle. She says, I taught my daughter at an early age to embrace her natural hair. Even when folks would call her hair nappy, she would tell them, but it is beautiful, right? Share your hair stories with us. Use that hashtag WFAA Rooted. We'll be right back. Rooted. It's a celebration, a conversation, all in consideration of black hair.
When I started first grade, I had naturally curly hair. All the girls in my class had pretty straight hair. I was born with naturally curly hair. So therefore, I begged my mom to let me get my hair straightened so I could look like everybody else. And back then, we used a hot comb. Actually put it on the fire and straighten your hair. So I started going to the beauty shop and they would straighten my hair. We had the curlers and curl it. So I felt like I was in place with the rest of the students.
Do you ever look back on that moment and understand where your mom was coming from?
Yes, and I truly regret that I didn't listen to her. Because my hair, even though it's curly now, to me it's not as pretty as it was back then.
We understand as African Americans fought for our rights to exist in America, to be seen and be heard as people, as human, right? And so a part of that, proving that we were worthy, proving that we were just like everyone else, meant assimilation. It meant I can read the books, I can speak the same way, I can wear my hair the same way.
I thought straight hair was the standard because that's all I knew. As I explained to you about the pressing comb, and then I graduated to relaxers. So I didn't know anything else. No one ever talked to me about how beautiful, you know, my natural texture was, or that it was an option. All I ever heard was griping about, oh my gosh, it would take forever to do your hair if it was natural. You know, it's so thick. Like, you need to get a relaxer and tame it. Relax your hair and you keep everybody around you relaxed. Because black hair has been so politicized. You know, you go back to the 70s when, you know, people associated afros with, you know, black power, and somehow that was a bad thing.
I think the reason that straight hair is associated with beauty is because that's what we see in the magazines, that's what's all over TV. As a parent, you know, I try to teach my girls and my son too, that however you look, that's how you look. And you're beautiful just the way that you are.
It makes me confident to rock my natural hair because some girls, like if they don't make their hair the neatest as possible, as they can that day, they'll ask for a brush to fix it.
As a black woman who has worked in predominantly white institutions my entire career, I have to be very intentional about the things that I say sometimes and how I say them. Delivery is very important, but it does mean that you are hyper aware all of the time. And you're hyper aware because we live in a society that tells you that certain groups act certain ways.
Okay, so when I decided to transition into being natural, there was a reaction at work. It was definitely just going from bone straight to again, cutting off all of my hair, showing my natural curl. I remember a CEO of my company just coming to me and saying, like, is there something going on? To the point that maybe I was sick, or was I making a statement? You know, was somebody else sick in my family? I mean, it was, I had to prepare myself when I decided to make a transition that I was going to be answering a lot of questions. That made me very uncomfortable. And I wasn't prepared for that at all mentally.
At one place that I worked, I once had someone just come up and say, "Oh my goodness, how long did this take? How long? What all did you have to do?" and just run their fingers through my hair. And at that point, I was just pretty over it. So I just walked away. I was just like, I can't deal with this right now. And later that day, I think I went and found someone that I could talk to who understands having black hair and having those microaggressions.
Natural hair is our birthright. Natural hair is a part of our ancestry. Natural hair is how we sleep and wake up and how we love ourselves. So it should be a thing that should be natural. And our hair and our curls and our coils and our twists and our braids show that, because that's the only language everyone across the country speaks.
If someone said good hair to you, what would that look like to you if you had to explain what good hair meant to you?
Good hair means any way you want to wear your hair is good hair. I think God created us all equal, and he made our hair different for a reason.
Featured in that piece resonated with so many of you. Her wisdom, my goodness. Yolanda Bledsoe telling us Miss Sue Parsons spoke for many of us. I remember sitting as stiff as a mannequin and still being burned with the hot comb. My mom would say, "I didn't burn you, it's just the grease." Okay, but hot grease burns. Honey, the trauma. Hey, keep sharing your stories. Use the hashtag WFAA-Rooted. Hey, we want to hear from you. I wanted to reach out to our viewers, people of all races who have learned something from this series. I know I learned a lot. Here are some of your answers.
I learned from the Rooted series that even though sometimes I feel alone in this journey, it's actually a collective journey.
You know, the Rooted series has really taught me the history of this delusional perception that we live by, that we have to look a certain way just to be considered professional. It's a delusional perception that wasn't even created by us, so why do we live by it? So I am rooted because I'm coming out of my shell, I'm spicing things up, and I know that I have every right to do so.
And watching this series of Rooted, it has inspired me to share my story. And like a tree, I continuously grow. And I hope my story inspires you to share yours.
I am rooted because the work we do today will provide a better future for my daughter tomorrow. Ain't that right?
Yes! After watching the Rooted series, I learned that this issue of hair discrimination and colorism really spans across generations and across cultures of people of color.
Hello, Tashara. This is the voice of DFW, and I wanted to thank you for the work that you've been putting into highlighting this topic. What Rooted has taught me is that there are similar stories that so many share regarding microaggressions and flat-out hair discrimination. So thank you for creating a platform allowing us to be black, be bold, to be beautiful, and to be rooted.
You can talk to me anytime on all of my social media channels. Just hit me up, search Tashara Parker, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all the places, all right? Tashara Parker, search for it and let me know. Did you know hot combs, also known as pressing combs, were created by the French in 1845? They arrived in America in 1880. Keep it right here. We'll be right back.
Not determined by the price of my clothes. No matter what I'm wearing, I will always be in the RE. When I look in the mirror, the only one there is me. Every freckle on
So what's next for Rooted? This isn't a series that we expected would last for 2 months, but it's clear the conversation, well, it's necessary, and I am listening. Something I heard a lot of was to include more men in this series, not just the young men in high school, but men currently in today's workforce. So that's what I did. From educators to community activists to entrepreneurs to coaches, we are getting to the bottom of black hair discrimination as it relates to black men as well. I even spoke to Dakari Davis, a police officer working in Dallas, who says he was reprimanded for rocking his cornrows at work, even placed on desk duty for a period of time because one of his superiors said the braided hairstyle he was wearing was unprofessional. Here's a preview of what he had to say.
I want people to know the challenges that a lot of black police officers face and how they're perceived and viewed based upon their appearance. And a lot of that comes from our hairstyles and the way we dress and a lot of other ways that we carry ourselves and how it's viewed amongst the police department. That says that there's an unspoken bias that needs to be addressed within our police departments.
All right, I can't give it all away, but that is just a taste of what we will discuss with Dakari, who is now back on duty. But it took him a while to get there, plus some high-powered people stepping in on his behalf. We'll hear the rest of his story and discuss what he says are deeply rooted issues within the police department as it relates to creating fair and equitable dress code policies for all officers.
This is just the beginning. Look, I want to thank you for watching, and we will continue fighting for equality and acceptance. We'll be watching what happens with the Crown Act in Austin as well. And listen to this. As always, keep sharing your stories and your hair because you are all beautiful. Thank you.